California is in a $68 billion historic deficit. Let me say that again for the people in the back. California has found themselves in a $68 billion historic deficit.
Well, you may have seen the headlines. California is facing a $68 billion budget shortfall. So I went straight to the state finance department for answers. Take a look.
It will be a difficult
Hold
budget.
on, wait. Before we get into the $68 billion deficit, where your stash at, man? Where your stash at, fam? Man, look, man. Y'all gonna have to stop getting on TV with these non-edged up hairlines, no beard and no stash. You telling me you got no beard and no stash? Where your stash at? I don't trust this man. I don't trust him. I don't trust this man as far as I can throw him. But let me go ahead and get back to the show.
State finance department for answers. Take a look.
It will be a difficult budget to solve. There will be a lot of decisions that are going to be difficult for the governor and the legislature.
Last year, California had a $97 billion surplus. So much money, the state gave back cash to Californians in what was called the middle class tax refund.
You go from a $97 billion surplus, historic, to a $68 billion deficit. Let's just take that in, y'all, because these are not small numbers. Shout out to Mel Johnson. I'm definitely going to be reading that super chat shortly. A 68, this is on a yearly basis. You know the type of money that these people are working with? $68 billion historic. That means that it's never been done before. Deficit.
A year later, we're facing a deficit. Why? I'm told tax receipts were lower than expected, and victims of flooding after those back-to-back winter storms were given an extension until October to file their taxes. So what will all of this mean for your wallet?
One of the things that is, a
Reading
ray
super
of
chat shortly.
comfort, if you will, amidst this bad budget news, is the fact that unlike past downturns, we do have a substantial and record level of budget reserves that are available to us to help deal with this downturn in revenues.
The state has about $22 billion in the rainy day fund, to be exact.
In addition, we also have reserves for public schools, for the safety net programs.
The Newsom administration released this statement saying the governor has maintained strict fiscal responsibility since taking office, building up the state's reserves to historic levels, the maximum allowed by the state constitution to be put in reserves, and paying down debts, putting California in a strong position to deal with budget shortfalls.
There's no reason that California should be in a budget deficit, considering that payrolls are up, unemployment has been at record lows, they take in a record number of taxes, and then property taxes are continuing to explode in California, right? But I'm going to tell you why they're in a deficit, and we'll get there.
In January, the governor will introduce a balanced budget proposal that addresses our challenges, protects vital services and public safety, and brings increased focus on how the state's investments are being implemented while ensuring accountability and judicious use of taxpayer money.
We may have to pull back on some one-time expenditures in the past that we can't sustain right now. So we will be looking to where we can make those types of adjustments, those types of savings, while maintaining the core programs that are essential for Californians and maintaining the progress that we've made in some critical areas, such as education, such as housing, such as homelessness, things in those, and in the climate as well.
So before I deep dive into the next clip, let me do this. Let me back up for a minute because I want to make sure that we're looking at this in its totality. And I want you guys to understand what's going on inside of y'all state, because a lot of times these numbers just seem so massive and so huge that it doesn't seem like it makes sense, but it does. And if we start to break it down and we start to look at it according to the way that it's supposed to be broken down, I'll help you to understand it. So the 2023-24 budget. Here, let me just share my screen with you guys really quickly so you can understand what I'm talking about. This is the governor's budget of California, right? You can do a quick Google search. It'll pop right up. It'll tell you exactly what the budget is. If you look at the first sentence, the 2023-24 governor's budget proposes spending $296.9 billion in state funds. That is not a typo. On a yearly basis, they're spending close to $300 billion in one state. That is their budget. See, a lot of people are not paying attention to this because most people don't really pay attention to what's happening in the state. They pay attention to what happened in their city, and then they pay attention to what happened with the national election, right? $300 billion is what their budget is, okay? Let's just take that into consideration. Revenues is $210 billion, and it'll tell you, and this is what they allocating the monies to. Expenditures versus revenues. So this is what's coming in, and this is what's going out based off of what was proposed. Now remember, this was proposed in January earlier this year. 11 months later, we now get the real numbers because they get to project out. So when they put in the budget together, they have to do it based off of what they project making money from. And there's a lot of reasons why they're now having a shortfall and that they don't project to have as much money. But this was earlier this year, right? Personal income taxes, they make $126 billion from personal income taxes. Sales taxes and use, $33 billion. Corporate taxes, they get $39 billion from that. Insurance taxes, $3.8 billion, and $7 billion from other. And then over here, their expenditures, they spend $81 billion for that trash education y'all getting over there. $71 billion in health and human services, so they giving it out to people for free. All of this free money, social services, and all of that. $22 billion in higher education, corrections and rehabilitation, which we know that the prison system in most instances are privately owned corporations. They spend $14 billion on prisons, and then who the hell knows what other is? Who knows what other is? And then it goes into the total state funds. Another 7% for transportation, natural resources, 4.3%. Legislative and judicial and executive is 3.6. I'm assuming that that's paying for your judges, the governor, and all of them, and a lifestyle. Labor workforce development, K through 12, 27% of the budget. Did y'all know that health and human services, basically free money, actually is more than a third of the entire California budget? Has anybody ever broke this down for y'all? Have y'all ever actually understood what was going on in your state and why you should or shouldn't vote for whoever it is that's coming into the governor's office, the mayor, and all of this other type of stuff? Health and human services account for over a third of your entire budget in the state of California. Over $100 billion. Over $100 billion is being allocated to health and human services. Corrections and rehabilitation, 6.3%. Only 1.7% is being used for business, consumer services, and housing. What a broad spectrum. Environmental protection, 2%. General government is 3% of the budget. So this is what y'all paying taxes for. This is what y'all paying taxes for. They have to put this information out here for you guys. But you guys are not familiar with it because you're not doing a deep dive to understand who it is that you're voting for. Let's continue. Let me break it down for you a little bit more.
Taking a live look at the state capitol in downtown Sacramento, state leaders are going to have to make some tough decisions next year when it comes to how they spend your tax dollars. The latest update from the state capitol shows
how they spend your tax dollars. It's your money. It's your money. I just want you to understand that.
California could be facing one of the biggest budget shortfalls in state history.
KCRA 3 Capitol correspondent Ashley Zavala joins us now, breaking it all down. This is a huge deficit.
This is significant, and it's reminiscent for many back to the early 2000s. Governor Newsom and state lawmakers this year are going to have to figure out how to solve that $68 billion budget problem as state spending negotiations begin next month. This update comes from the State Legislative Analyst Office, also known as the LAO. It's the agency.
So remember, they're projecting for next year now.
That guides lawmakers in the state's financial decisions. It released its full financial outlook this morning, showing that not only do lawmakers have to deal with this hole for the upcoming year, but then shortfalls at about $30 billion each for the following 3 years.
So they're projecting revenue shortfall and budget shortfalls and deficits of over $30 billion in addition to the $68 billion each year after that, which probably means that they're being too conservative with what the shortfall is going to be, because it's probably going to be much bigger than that. But let's continue.
So why is this happening? The state's financial experts say several reasons, but primarily point to those delayed tax returns that just recently came in because of the strong storms from earlier this year that delayed returns. So as we've been reporting, lawmakers and the governor put together a state spending plan last summer without having a full financial picture from those returns, which ended up coming back billions of dollars below expectations, $26 billion to be exact. Second, the state relies mostly on California's wealthiest taxpayers for cash.
That's the part I wanted you to see. That's the part I wanted you to see. And so as they continue to run out the people that are paying the most taxes inside of the state, now as they move over into other states that don't even have an income tax, aka Texas, aka Nashville, Tennessee, aka Florida, as people flee because they get smarter and wiser, and then they just go over there and they just have a little vacation home over there, but they spending the overwhelming majority of their existence over in these states that actually is a lot more conducive to business. And then y'all move over there and y'all trying to vote so that y'all can turn it into what it is that y'all ran away from in California. A lot of these people moved over to Nevada. They moved to Las Vegas. And so now you messed around and found out.
Those earners, as we have been reporting, have been impacted by an underperforming stock market, persistent inflation, and job losses in high-paying industries like tech. So what's next? The LAO made a set of suggestions, including tapping into the state's record reserves, which are at about $37 billion right now. It also suggested state leaders consider cutting billions in education funds, plus halting the use of any money that it earmarked for one-time programs that it hasn't spent yet. That includes programs that are related to transportation and the environment, for example. The LAO also said this could warrant the governor declaring a budget emergency in order to tap into that state's rainy day fund. The LAO said the rainy day is here.
They want to cut money from education. They never said that they wanted to stop all of the social services, food stamps, giving out all of this free money that cost over a third of your California budget. They said we're going to continue to cut funding that goes into what it is that we're paying teachers, funding for schools, making sure that your kids is taken care of. We're going to go ahead and cut money. And yeah, no reparation for you, Kiro. No reparations. Yeah, black people, y'all was over there. Y'all wasted y'all time. Y'all went over to California. Y'all let this governor finesse y'all into saying that, yeah, you know what? We're going to make sure that we really take into consideration giving you guys reparations. I seen y'all over there at that meeting. Y'all was over there fighting and getting mad at each other. And he was like, we ain't got no more money. Oh, my God.
We describe this as a serious budget problem, though we would stop short of describing it as a budget crisis. The state has a fair number of budget tools at its disposal. And, frankly, the cash position of the state government is much healthier than it was, say, in the time around the Great Recession.
So that is what is happening over in California. And I don't want to hear no complaints. I don't want to hear not one person, as you guys continue to embrace your tiny homes and your van life. I don't want one person to come over here to me and complain to me about what is going on in California when y'all re-voted him in after what happened during the pandemic, and then you voted him back in. Governor Gavin Newsom is your governor, and he has a $68 billion shortfall hole for y'all to plug. Make sure that you give your contribution, and make sure that you go ahead and give all of your extra donations over to the state of California because you voted for him to be there. All right? I wanted y'all to understand that. I need to make sure that you make sure to give your contribution over into California to help Governor Newsom give out more of your money to prisons and social services, okay?